Welcome back to my series on essential survival knots. Tensioner knots come in various shapes and sizes, and you can use something like a fixed tensioner, like a trucker's hitch, that uses mechanical advantage in order to put a massive amount of tension on that line. But sometimes you want to be able to put variable tension on a line, especially if you're using a tensioner knot in order to tie up something like a tarp or a ridgeline that you want to adjust the tension on at a later stage. Now, often our tents or our tarps come with little grommets on the guy lines that you can use to adjust the tension. But what happens if you lost a grommet or if you lost the guy line entirely, and now you've got to use a knot in order to tension that line? You can use something like a TAUT-LINE hitch, which is what I'm going to discuss in this video. Now, a TAUT-LINE hitch is a great way in order to tension your lines with variable tension. It's super easy to do, and you can untie it really easily as well. I'm Clarice, welcome to the Live Ready channel. I usually store my ropes with an end of the line bowline on them, but just a quick recap, and if you haven't watched my video on how to make an end of the line bowline, go and check that out. I will link it here. So first of all, just really quick, end of the line bowline, you've got a standing end, which is the one that I've dropped to the ground, and then what I'm working with is my working end. So I make a roller coaster loop in order to do an end of the line bowline. The roller coaster loop, right, has my working end underneath my standing end. Now I take the standing end, pull it through, thread the working end through that loop, pinch it on both sides, just like that, and now when I pull, I've got an end of the line bowline. So really quick to do. I can trust this knot to stay where it is. I can even leave it on my line, which is something I usually do actually. And then it's really quick and easy to put a ridge line up anywhere at any time. Okay, so I'm going to make a running bowline out of it by just going around the tree, threading the working end, or what's now the working end, through what's now going to be the standing end or my loop, right? Give it some nice tension and then bring it across to my second tree. Now, previously I said I really like to use a figure 4 knot with an event hitch over it and a toggle in order to make a tensioner knot. I did that in my video on rapid deployment tarp shelters. Go and check that out. I will link it here too. So I put the two lines parallel and I run the working end over, and I'm just going to do 2 loops, 1, 2 around. So I've basically now just twisted my line around my ridge line. I'm going to run it over my fingers, and then I'm just going to twist it up and pull it through at the top, and that is already an event hitch over a figure 4. To keep it there, I'll just put a toggle in. But there is another way in which you can do it, and it's very similar to a figure 4. So a figure 4 usually starts like this. You can see that I've started a figure 4 here, right? And this is now my working end. So I'll take my working end and I'll thread it through in between the standing and the working end once, and another time, twice, which is the exact same as a figure 4, right? So now I've made 2 loops sitting on the inside of this loop that goes around my tree. Right, I'm going to make a 3rd loop going in the exact same direction, okay? But instead of going on the inside of this loop, I'm going to come around on the outside. Right? And it just goes underneath itself. Now the best way to make a knot is a knot that tensions on itself, because you know it's going to hold. So this here, because it runs underneath itself, tells me it's going to tension on itself. Right, so I dress my knot so that that's really nice and neat, and I take out all the slack in that line. Okay, now that's sitting really tight, but my line is still slack. So if I wanted to adjust this line, for example, let's say I put 6 of them up because I put up a tarp shelter. Now one of them is just not tight enough to give me that perfect Instagram picture. I can now go and adjust this by just sliding the knot towards the standing end, and that's going to tension and it holds. So it's a brilliant knot for lots of purposes. All right, and that's it, really quick and easy. Now we can sometimes do a visual check on our knots. This one will end up having 3 little loops sitting on what is the standing end, and the working end going underneath a smiley face. So that gives you a visual indication that you've done it correctly and that it's going to hold. And this is really great if you need to make something tight in bad weather, because it is going to hold, but you can adjust it depending on what you need. So for example, let's say I put up a ridgeline for a tarp and then suddenly realize that my ridgeline might be a little too high or too low because I want to put a hammock underneath it, or it's getting cold and I want to contain a bit more of the warm air inside my shelter. I can just simply adjust the line here, and that's great about an end of the line bow line as well. It's not fixed or solid there. So now I can make my line higher or lower really easily without actually needing to undo the entire line or to undo any knots. Here we go. Quick and simple, just like that. All right, in order to take a taut line hitch apart, you simply add a little bit of tension back to the last bit of the knot that you made. That was the working end going around the standing end. Pull it apart and simply thread it back the way it came, and it comes undone that easily. All right, now I usually leave my end of the line bow line at the end of my rope, just so that I can easily set it up and take it down as well. I store most of my ropes this way with an end of the line bow line on it. That's easy deployment and easy to take it down. If you've liked this video, remember to hit like and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram. I post a bit more of the everyday live ready stuff on there, and you might even find a hint or two of what's to come to the YouTube channel in future. Until the next time, live ready.